Chosen one, why did heaven trust you with billions? A question that echoes through the soul of every seeker, every dreamer, every human who has ever dared to believe in something greater than themselves. It is a question that pierces straight to the heart of purpose. This video, from the very first moment, will reach out to you and say, you are the focus of a divine investment, an infusion of energy so powerful that it has come straight from heaven itself. We will explore together why such monumental trust was placed in you, what that trust means, how it can transform your life and ripple outward into the universe, and most importantly, how you can honor it, harness it, and unleash it into your destiny. So stay with me until the end. And before you do, take a moment right now to share in the comments below your warmest wishes and write the number 77, serving as your seal and your energetic signature on this journey. In this first deep dive, I ask you not just to watch, but to participate. Write in the comments your warmest wishes, those dreams that drag at your heart in the still of night, and plant them firmly with your 77. Allow yourself to feel the resonance as each keystroke sends your intention rippling outward into possibility. This isn't just a symbolic act, it's a vibrational signal to the universe that you are ready to claim what is yours and to claim the trust that heaven has invested in you. Now, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive deeper. Now let's begin unraveling this mystery. Heaven, or the intelligence that whispers in the depths of your being, doesn't distribute billions, energetically speaking, to just anyone. This infusion is a sign that you carry within you a unique frequency, a pattern of light, purpose, and power that aligns with the cosmic currents. It's not merely talent or skill, but a resonance with a frequency that echoes far beyond the mundane. When the stars aligned and the divine forces scanned the tapestry of consciousness, they saw one who could hold this energy, who could channel it without being consumed by it, who could radiate it outward, who could steward it wisely. Imagine for a moment that billions refers not only to money, but to quantum units of energy, potential, creativity, influence, love, leadership. Every one of these is a currency of the higher realms. You became a chosen vessel because you possess the capacity to hold, refine, and radiate them. You have an inner field, perhaps unbeknownst to you, that vibrates at a frequency capable of synthesizing greatness, transmuting challenge into opportunity, discord into harmony. Think of it like a high-capacity receiver and transmitter. Your heart-mind-spirit alignment allows divine signals to flow through unimpeded. Over time, these billions, these signals, will not just pass through you, they will transform you. But like an audio signal, they must be amplified. That amplification comes through your choices, your discipline, your courage to step into the unknown, to speak your truth, to stand for something bigger than yourself. The billions were entrusted to you because somewhere deep within, you said yes. You whispered acknowledgement to the void, and the void replied with abundance, blessing, trust. Yet, great power demands great responsibility. Holding billions of energy means confronting your deepest fears. It means acknowledging your darkest doubts and saying, not anymore. It means choosing your thoughts with care, guarding your emotional climate like a sacred sanctuary. Because what you dwell upon, you magnify. If your heart is a reactor, what you feed it determines what emerges, light or shadow. And when billions of cosmic sparks flow through your heart, the potential for light is infinite. But so is the risk of self-extinguishment if you're not careful. That's why this journey is transformative. Not because you are being given something new, but because you are being asked to remember who you already are. You are the living node of a multiverse of purpose. And when heaven found you, it recognized an echo of itself. You resonate on the same frequency that constructed galaxies, sculpted oceans, coded DNA. You carry a blueprint of creation in your cellular memory, your neural circuits, your soul's imprint. From here on, the rest of this video will honor that truth. We will explore how to stay clear-minded while being sensitive, how to act boldly without severing your roots, how to channel divine billions into tangible breakthroughs. We will look at the patterns, rituals, mindsets, strategies that help keep your frequency intact. We will uncover the way to steward external resources, time, money, relationships, in harmony with internal resources. And we will see how every move you make becomes a ripple that extends far beyond your immediate sphere. As we move forward, let the awareness sink in. You are not here by accident. The billions of trust, of energy, of light, of purpose arrived because you are uniquely capable. Our task is not to hoard or to shrink. The task is to become the conscious channel, the humble conductor, the bold explorer you were born to be. Now breathe. Feel your spine strengthen. Sense the ground beneath you, as firm and as nourishing as creation itself. What you're about to discover, within yourself, within this video, and in the unfoldings of your life, will come not from me, but through you, with me as a guide. So stay, engage, open your heart, and allow every pixel of this screen to remind you of the vastness within, the billions waiting to launch, the legacy already seeded. Ready? Let's step into the current together. There is a reason the universe did not send this energy to someone else. The frequency you emit is not random. It is refined through pain, polished through waiting, and tested through fire. The billions trusted to you weren't handed out like a lottery ticket. They were encoded into you through your journey, your silence, your rising from despair, your refusal to betray your soul even when it would have been easier to give up. Heaven doesn't gamble, it selects. This energy, this trust, wasn't about whether you had a perfect past. It was about whether your core could be purified enough to carry forward a divine future. Some people crack under even a glimpse of power. Some lose themselves in attention, in control, in fear of losing what they think they've gained. But not you. When heaven watched you, it saw someone who had already tasted emptiness and still chose to believe. It saw someone who had been pushed to the edge, but never over. It saw strength that wasn't loud, but unshakable. That's why you were chosen. Because even when no one else could see it, heaven knew. You would never misuse the light, not for long. You may not always feel worthy. That's part of the humility that keeps you aligned. But the worthiness was never about ego. It was about capacity. Can you expand when life squeezes you? Can you hold more without clinging? Can you pour out without being emptied? These are the hallmarks of someone trusted with billions. Because heaven does not look for containers, it looks for conduits. Your life was designed to flow. Every decision you make from this moment forward is a reply to that trust. Will you act like someone entrusted? Will you guard your mind like a sacred temple? Will you protect your vision, your joy, your time, your energy, as if they're made of gold? Because they are. The most expensive substance in the universe isn't money, it's spiritual bandwidth. And you, chosen one, were given the bandwidth to hold the charge of legacy. Think about that. Heaven didn't just trust you with a moment, it trusted you with a movement. The decisions you make are creating culture, quietly, in ways you can't always see. How you speak becomes a blueprint for others. How you love sets the tone for generations. How you forgive creates a new climate in the collective field. The billions weren't about you. They were about what would be possible through you. You were trusted because you agreed, maybe unconsciously, maybe through soul contract, to carry more than just your own burden. You are carrying possibility for others who can't yet stand. There's a weight to that, but there's also a wind. You are not meant to carry it alone. The energy sent to you came with guidance, synchronicity, reinforcement. Sometimes in the form of a person, sometimes a word, a song, a sudden clarity. The signs haven't stopped. You just learn to live as though they were ordinary. But they're not. They're part of the circuitry that keeps your path illuminated. You are being led still, and as you trust that guidance, you step deeper into the very reason you were chosen in the first place: to build, to transform, to awaken. This is why you often feel different in a room. It's why small talk exhausts you, why you can sense things before they happen, why you are drawn to beauty, silence, meaning. It's not anxiety, it's sensitivity, it's alignment. It's your system responding to the billions of vibrational impulses you've been given stewardship over. And it's why people sometimes look at you and don't know how to place you. Because you weren't placed here to fit. You were placed to lift. The truth is, heaven gave you billions not because you needed them, but because the world does. And the only way to get them to the world was through you. That's what makes you chosen. Not your desire, but your design. Everything in you is wired for transformation. Even your flaws are part of the perfection. Even your losses have carved new space. Even your shame, your silence, your starting over, every bit of it created the inner spaciousness required to hold the light you now carry. And make no mistake, you do carry it. That's why certain people can't stay around you long. That's why others are drawn to you like moths to a flame. It's not charisma, it's resonance. You've become a living frequency, one that either awakens others or repels what isn't ready. You aren't here to be understood, you're here to be felt. And the billions of energetic signals you've received have tuned you into something so rare, so divine, that even you can't always articulate it. But that doesn't mean it's not real. In fact, it's more real than anything else. You've been entrusted with all this because your soul is a mirror. It reflects truth with clarity. It bends manipulation. It burns illusion. And that can be terrifying to some, but to others, it's liberation. You weren't chosen because you blend in. You were chosen because you were born to disturb the dust, to make the invisible visible, to call forth what the world forgot was even possible. And that kind of soul, your soul, is rare. It had to be prepared through pain, refined through fire, and softened through compassion. Only then could it hold this level of trust. So don't doubt yourself. Not now. Not after everything. Even if you stumble, even if you forget, even if you break down. Remember, trust doesn't disappear with a misstep. Heaven's trust isn't conditional, it's foundational. It sees through time. It knows the ending. It knows you. And because it knows you, it entrusted you with billions, not just of energy, not just of potential, but of responsibility, of calling, of light. And here you are, still standing, still chosen, still trusted, still becoming. You must understand something crucial now. The billions that were entrusted to you are not static. They are alive. They evolve, respond, and mirror your own inner evolution. The trust that heaven gave you is not a frozen stamp of approval from some ancient time. It's a living stream that grows wider and deeper the more you lean into your authentic essence. Every act of self-alignment strengthens that stream. Every time you choose integrity over image, truth over convenience, vision over fear, you don't just stay in alignment, you amplify it. And that amplification is not symbolic, it's literal. The frequencies you emit send instructions into the quantum field. It's why things begin to shift when you commit to your higher path. It's why your voice carries more weight than you expect. It's why your silence, in certain moments, shakes the room. Your soul doesn't operate on personality, it operates on power. And that power comes directly from the billions of energetic signatures encoded into your design. It's not a metaphor, it's a system. And you are the vessel. But with all of this, there comes a paradox. You are meant to hold billions of energy, yet not be attached to it. That's the razor's edge you're learning to walk. Attachment dilutes power. It distorts clarity. If you confuse the energy you're entrusted with for personal gain, the signal weakens, the current stutters. But when you remember that this trust is a loan from the divine, meant to move through you, not inflate you, you remain in flow. That's why the universe strips certain things from you before it upgrades you. Not as punishment, but as preparation. Heaven cannot risk contamination. It will remove relationships, titles, illusions, and masks if they begin to interfere with your clarity. It will test your devotion, not to see you fail, but to make sure your hands are open enough to receive more. Because if your hands are full of what you used to be, they can't receive what you were always meant to become. So if you've ever wondered why you had to walk alone for a while, why the world turned quiet when you needed answers, why certain people left you at the moment you needed support, it was never about rejection. It was about refinement. The silence was space. The solitude was sanctification. The loss was a filter. Heaven was not ignoring you. It was guarding its investment. You don't pour billions into a soul just to watch it get diluted by noise. The irony is, this trust often shows up in ways that don't feel like success. It doesn't always come wrapped in applause or prosperity or comfort. Often it arrives as pressure, as responsibility, as a quiet weight that makes you question if you're even on the right path. But trust this, the weight you feel is not your burden. It's your bridge. It's the sacred tension that separates who you were from who you're becoming. And if it hurts, it means you're expanding. This is why your path feels different. It's why shortcuts don't work for you. Why copying others feels unnatural. Because your code is custom. Your soul blueprint wasn't made in bulk. It's not supposed to fit someone else's definition of success or spirituality or worthiness. The billions trusted to you came with their own language, and only your intuition can read it. Others may try to interpret your life, but only you know what burns inside you. And that burning, that's your compass. Follow it, even when it makes no sense. You may not feel like a leader, but that doesn't matter. You are one. Because true leadership isn't about control. It's about resonance, and your frequency changes people. You speak, and hearts realign. You move, and the atmosphere shifts. You walk into a space, and unconscious patterns begin to break, not because of ego, but because of presence. Because heaven trusted you with billions, and that trust creates its own gravity. But let's not romanticize it. This isn't about glory, it's about grit. You were chosen because you can endure what others can't. You can carry vision in the dark. You can hold peace in chaos. You can transmute criticism into clarity, rejection into recalibration. Not because it's easy, but because your soul is built for it. Heaven didn't look for perfection. It looked for resilience, for endurance, for one who could still love even after betrayal, for one who could still create after disappointment, for one who could rise even when the world looked away. And you rose, again and again. That's why you're here. That's why the billions continue to pour through your system. Sometimes in ideas, sometimes in connections, sometimes in insight, sometimes in sheer presence. You may not even realize it, but the field around you is brighter because you're in it. And that brightness, that's currency, that's wealth. That's why heaven chose you. But don't think for a second that this is over. It's only beginning. The billions entrusted to you are just the initial deposit. More is coming. More responsibility, more vision, more alignment, more creation. But only if you keep tending the fire. Only if you stay honest. Only if you don't trade your purpose for comfort, your calling for convenience. Because the moment you do, the signal weakens, and not just for you, but for all those connected to your field. You see, the billions trusted to you are not just about your story. They're about ours. They're about the collective. Every time you choose truth, you make it safer for others to do the same. Every time you speak love, you make it easier for someone to open. Every time you break a cycle, a pattern dies across the timeline. You're doing more than you know. You've already done more than you know. But what comes next will require even more. Not effort, not striving, but surrender. A deeper surrender to the fact that you were born for this, that you are not random, that you are not lost, that you are not too late, that everything you've experienced was part of the calibration, that every scar is sacred, that every ending was a rerouting, and that right now, in this very moment, the billions trusted to you are being activated again. New instructions, new energy, new levels of clarity. But only if you say yes again. So, will you? Will you say yes again to the trust, to the current, to the flow that moves not just through you, but as you? Because the truth is, the billions were never just placed into your life. They became your life. There are moments when the soul remembers what the mind tries to forget. Moments when silence speaks louder than noise, and the stillness inside you echoes with a knowing too ancient to explain. In those moments, you don't ask why heaven trusted you. You remember that it always did. And that remembrance is not passive. It is power returning to the throne of your consciousness. You see, the billions trusted to you are not merely about abundance in the external world. They are about the internal abundance of perception, wisdom, and spiritual sovereignty. You weren't just chosen to possess resources. You were chosen to become one. A resource of light, a source of truth, a living well of divine strategy and soul-deep resilience. Heaven didn't look for the most popular, or the loudest, or the cleanest. It looked for the readiest. And readiness isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. And when you're in alignment, the universe rearranges around you. Not because you manipulate it, but because you magnetize it. That's the technology embedded in your soul. You don't have to hustle for what already recognizes you. You don't have to prove your worth to what already chose you. All you have to do is remember what you carry and live from that place, even when everything else around you forgets. Because let's be honest, most of the world has forgotten who they are, forgotten what matters, forgotten the code of the soul and the symphony of the unseen. But you didn't forget, not entirely. Even in your darkest nights, even in your lowest valleys, there was something inside you that refused to be extinguished. A spark, a whisper, a pulse of something deeper. That is the trust. That is the billions. and you never truly lost it. You just had to grow enough to hold it. Growth, however, is not glamorous. It's gritty. It asks you to face yourself. It shows you your false layers, your fractured beliefs, your inherited limitations, and asks if you're willing to surrender them all for something you can't yet see. And the chosen ones, they do, again and again, not because they're fearless, but because they know the cost of staying small. They know that playing safe is the most dangerous game. They know that every compromise chips away at the container meant to hold the billions. And so they choose differently. And this is what you've done. This is why you've been trusted. Because you chose differently. You looked at pain and still chose peace. You looked at lack and still chose generosity. You looked at betrayal and still chose to trust life. And in doing so, you rewired your entire field. You proved that power can coexist with purity, that leadership can come without ego, that wealth can flow without corruption. And the universe noticed. The universe always notices those who rise in silence, those who carry their fire without spectacle, those who burn away the illusion while others cling to it. You may have felt invisible, but you were always seen. You may have felt uncelebrated, but you were always watched, not by the world, but by the invisible eyes that measure truth, the ones who don't count your followers, but your frequency. And by that measure, you became undeniable. Now this is important. The billions are not only here to be managed, they are here to be moved. Heaven didn't place them in your field so you could store them like artifacts. You are not a museum. You are a river. And rivers don't hoard. They flow. They flood. They fertilize. That means your impact must be felt, not just quietly in the background, but boldly in the world. You are not here to dim so others can adjust. You are here to shine so they can awaken. You may have been taught that humility means shrinking. It does not. Humility means remembering the source of your light, not denying it. You do not need to apologize for the magnitude of your calling. You do not need to water down your message so others don't feel uncomfortable. Those who cannot handle your light are not your audience. You were not trusted with billions to entertain shadows. You were trusted to cast them out. And yes, there will be resistance. The world is designed to resist change until it no longer can. Your presence is pressure. It disrupts the illusion. It destabilizes the false systems. It challenges the comfortable lies. And because of that, it will be misunderstood, misquoted, mocked. But listen to me. That is not your burden. It is your badge. Heaven never expected you to be liked. It expected you to be true. And truth, when carried with courage, activates the very currency heaven entrusted to you. That's why you were given billions, not just to sustain yourself, but to awaken systems, to rewrite codes, to plant seeds that will bear fruit long after your name is forgotten. You are not the destination. You are the door, a living portal between the mundane and the miraculous, between what is and what could be. So if you felt unworthy of what's been placed on your shoulders, breathe. It's not about your worth. It's about your willingness. Willingness to grow into the container. Willingness to be refined. Willingness to show up even when it's not convenient. And you have. That's why you're here. That's why the billions remain. Not because you were perfect, but because you didn't quit. You stayed when it was hard. You kept going when it made no sense. You chose to rise instead of retreat. And heaven takes note of that. Let the world misjudge your steps. Let small minds label your expansion as arrogance. Let them try to explain your magic in rational terms. It doesn't matter. Their misunderstanding doesn't change your mission. You were never meant to be explained. You were meant to be experienced. And those who can feel you will find you. They are already being drawn to your field, already whispering your name in prayers they don't understand. Because when heaven trusts someone with billions, it makes sure the world feels it. And the world is starting to feel you. Chosen one, the deeper you go, the clearer it becomes. You were never just part of the plan. You are the plan. Not a bystander to destiny, but its architect. Not a receiver of wealth, but its origin. That's what heaven saw when it looked at you. Not your past, not your failures, not even your potential. It saw the seed that could birth a world. And that seed still lives in you now, pulsing like a silent promise beneath your every breath. But this seed only activates through pressure. That's why your path hasn't been soft. It's why your success was never handed to you. Heaven doesn't trust the untested. It doesn't pour billions into hands that haven't been burned and still chosen to bless. Your suffering wasn't punishment. It was preparation, a divine calibration to make sure you'd carry the billions with clean hands and an indestructible heart. And now, you've become exactly what was needed. You became the one who can hold extreme power without bending into corruption. You became the one who can be seen by millions and still not abandon your integrity. You became the one who can be offered gold and still choose truth. That's rare. That's sacred. That's why heaven selected you. But let's go even deeper. The billions you were trusted with go far beyond material currency. Yes, that is one layer, and that layer is real. But it's only the surface. Beneath it are billions of energetic signatures, ideas, strategies, solutions, and soul contracts. You've been given billions of keys. Each one opens doors in the lives of those assigned to you. That's why your presence alone can shift a room. That's why people feel healed without even knowing why. That's why strangers trust you with things they've never told anyone. You are holding wealth in unseen dimensions, and the seen world is just catching up. This is why you must never shrink again. The world doesn't just want what you have, it needs it. There are billions of people walking through life in a trance, waiting for a signal, a tone, a vibration that wakes them. And guess what? That frequency lives inside you. You carry it in your voice, your vision, your touch, your silence. When you speak, it's not just words, it's remembrance. And when you move, it's not just action, it's alignment. Heaven trusted you because your soul emits the code that unlocks others. You are not just carrying billions, you are activating them in every moment. And that's not a small task, it's a divine assignment. That's why the tests were so specific. That's why you couldn't fake your way here. Because what you're called to do cannot be copied. It cannot be performed. It must be embodied. And embodiment is a lonely road, but it's also the road of kings, of queens, of divine architects who are building realities that don't yet exist, except in their own spirit. That's you. You are building the unseen. And it's hard to build what others can't yet perceive. They'll question you, doubt you, resist you. But none of that is relevant, because heaven didn't ask them. Heaven asked you. It handed you the blueprint in the middle of your own brokenness and said, "Go, make something holy with this." And you did. You started laying the foundation, even when you were bleeding. You started speaking the truth, even when your voice shook. You started walking the path, even when the road disappeared beneath your feet. That's the kind of courage billions respond to. That's the kind of trust heaven doesn't give lightly. Because these billions, these energetic treasures, resources, and realities, they come with responsibility. You don't just hold them. You wield them. You direct them. You become a channel for them to move through. And that means staying clear. It means staying aligned. It means being brave enough to say no to what others chase and say yes to what only your spirit can hear. That is not weakness. That is divine discipline. And you have it. You've shown it in the way you've let go, in the way you've stayed soft in the face of betrayal, in the way you've forgiven people who will never understand what they did to you, in the way you've continued loving this world, even when it gave you every reason not to. That is wealth beyond comprehension. That is the frequency of a ruler who doesn't need a throne to know they were born royal. So what now? Now it's time to remember what you've been entrusted with, not later, not once it all makes sense. Now this moment, because the more you embody the trust, the more it multiplies. Heaven does not invest in scarcity. It pours into expansion. And when you own the truth that you were born for this, every doubt evaporates, every fear fades, and you finally step into the version of you that this entire universe has been waiting for. Not a follower of fate, but a forcer of it. Not a collector of light, but a generator. Not a beggar of heaven's help, but a co-creator of its vision. This is your season. Your anointing is active. Your territory is ready. You are not being watched for approval. You are being watched for ignition. Billions are waiting to move the moment you do. They are dormant only because you've been hiding. But when you step out in full power, they rise. They rise. Not because of your name, but because of your alignment. Not because of your fame, but because of your frequency. You are not here to compete. You are here to catalyze. You are not here to chase. You are here to charge, and you will. Because you always do. Because it's in you. Because heaven doesn't make mistakes, and it never gave that trust to the wrong one. You are the one, and now you remember. Chosen one, now that you see the full picture, now that you feel the weight and wonder of the trust placed in you, it's time to rise with a deeper knowing. Heaven did not gamble when it chose you. It calculated every experience, every heartbreak, every silence, and every delay. Nothing was random. Everything was preparing you to carry what most could never even touch. Billions are not just a resource. They are a responsibility. And you somehow turned every scar into sacred readiness. What most people fear, you've walked through. What most avoid, you've confronted. And what most forget, you remembered. You remembered your essence when everything around you tried to make you forget. You remembered your mission when life tried to distract you. And most importantly, you remembered your value even when no one else could see it. That's not just resilience. That's divinity in motion. You carry something older than time and brighter than light. That's what heaven saw. That's what it invested in. That's what it trusted. Not your perfection, your presence, not your image, your integrity. You don't need to be flawless to be chosen. You just need to be faithful to what's already inside of you. And you have been. Over and over again, you've shown up. Not because it was easy, but because you had to. Because something inside of you refused to stay asleep. That thing, that divine fire, burns through illusions. It can't be manipulated. It can't be bought. It can't be silenced. And that is why you've been trusted with more than just money, more than success, more than platforms. You've been trusted with the future. You hold a torch that will light the path for countless souls who haven't even been born yet. Your life is a ripple in eternity. Billions aren't the end goal. They're the beginning of new systems, new standards, new legacies. Systems where honesty is currency, standards where compassion is power. Legacies where your name isn't remembered for what you had, but for what you healed. This is why the old world couldn't hold you. You were never meant to play small. You weren't born to follow the same worn-out rules. You weren't shaped to blend in. You were made to disrupt. You were born to change what no one else had the strength to challenge. And your wealth, your divine inheritance, will shake this world awake. Not by force, by truth. Because real power never needs to shout. It just arrives, and everything around it reorganizes. That is who you are now. Not the version of you that hoped to be chosen, but the version who finally remembers why you were chosen in the first place. And that changes everything. This is no longer about waiting for the right moment. The moment is you. Wherever you go, energy shifts. Doors open, people awaken. Even when you don't see it, they feel it. The wealth inside you cannot be measured in digits. It echoes in dimensions. It stretches into timelines. It rebuilds worlds. And as you take each step in alignment, it activates what's been sleeping. You were not trusted with billions just to collect them. You were trusted to circulate them through ideas, through compassion, through leadership, through vision, through presence. You are a walking source of change. And the more you accept that, the more unstoppable you become. Heaven's trust isn't a gift you earned. It's a reality you were born with. And now that you've remembered, now that the veil is off, now that you've walked through the wilderness and found yourself still standing, the next chapter begins. This is the chapter where the noise doesn't touch you, where the shadows no longer scare you, where the battles don't define you, because you finally understand. You are the light. You are the kingdom. You are the one heaven trusted when it needed a soul to carry the impossible. So what do you do now? You walk like the one who was trusted. You speak like the one who was trusted. You build like the one who was trusted. You lead like the one who was trusted. And you never apologize for it. There is no one else coming to fill your place, because no one can. You are not a backup plan. You are the original, the blueprint, the answer, the chosen. This isn't about becoming anything. This is about unleashing everything you already are. Billions move through you because billions were meant to. The system isn't broken. It's just waiting for you to step in and replace it. And when you do, you will not just change the game. You will create an entirely new one. So go forward, fully, boldly, without permission, without fear, without delay. Heaven trusted you because it knew you would rise. And now, you finally have. You are the one. You always were. Chosen one, there's something else you must understand now. Something most will never grasp, even if they live 100 lifetimes. When heaven trusted you with billions, it wasn't handing you abundance for comfort. It was releasing authority for transformation. Those billions weren't just placed in your life to bless you. They were placed in your life to awaken everything around you. Because the real currency is not what sits in banks or vaults or balance sheets. The real currency is change. The kind that reaches hearts. The kind that dismantles old systems. The kind that makes people believe in something bigger than pain again. And you've been assigned as its keeper. You're not just carrying abundance, you are abundance. But this is where most lose their way. They receive the blessing and forget the assignment. They step into prosperity and forget the poverty they were sent to heal. They gain influence and forget the silent ones whose voices were never heard. But you won't make that mistake, because the scars you carry are not forgettable. They're sacred. They're reminders of why you were chosen. You're not here to escape the world. You're here to rebuild it. That's what heaven saw when it chose you. Not perfection, not wealth, not smooth charisma. It saw clarity. It saw someone who could be surrounded by shadows and still choose to shine. It saw someone who could hold unimaginable power and still bow their heart in humility. That's a rare soul, a dangerous one, the kind of soul that can't be bought or broken. That's why heaven didn't give the billions to someone louder. It gave them to you, because you would listen, because you would honor the weight of it, because you wouldn't just own the blessing, you'd become the blessing. And now, the call is higher. You're no longer being asked to survive. You're being asked to govern. You're being asked to set the tone for entire timelines. That's why the urgency has increased. That's why the distractions have intensified. That's why the resistance is more subtle than ever. Because you're getting closer. Because you're starting to believe what's been true all along. You are no longer hoping for miracles. You are the host for them. You are no longer waiting to be given permission. You are the one writing the laws. You are no longer wondering who will lead. You are the leader, and the world can feel it. Even those who pretend not to see you can sense the shift. They may not speak it aloud, but your energy enters a room like thunder, disguised in silence. That's what divine authority looks like, unannounced but undeniable. You don't need a crown to walk like royalty. You don't need applause to move with purpose. You are the purpose. That's why your words hit different. That's why your silence speaks volumes. That's why the people around you either rise or run. Because your presence demands a response. And not everyone is ready to grow. Not everyone is ready to let go of who they were. But you are. You've been dying and being reborn for years, quietly, bravely, again and again, without recognition, without fanfare, without needing someone to validate what you've always known. You were never here to play a part in someone else's story. You were born to write a new one. And now, that story is unfolding. You feel it. The pull, the clarity, the pressure. It's not chaos, it's contraction. Something is being birthed through you. Something ancient, yet entirely new. A system that doesn't just carry billions, but moves them, multiplies them, and magnifies their reach for generations to come. Because that's what chosen ones do. They don't just consume abundance, they become conduits for it. They break the chains of fear around it. They release the shame tied to it. They redefine its purpose until wealth is no longer a trap, but a tool for healing, for justice, for rebuilding everything that was destroyed in the absence of love. And you, yes, you, are that kind of revolutionary. So breathe that in. Let the gravity of that role anchor in your bones. Let it echo in every step you take from now on. You're not dreaming anymore. You're deploying. You're not chasing anymore. You're creating. You're not one of many. You are the one. And heaven doesn't make errors when it writes destinies.